Alright, I'm going to make this video on painting in the color wheel. And I've got a couple things. I've got some water, rag, something to mix the paint on, yellow, red, blue, a couple of brushes, probably only need one, and some palette knives just to show you the different kinds of palette knives or different types I have. I also wanted to show you, here's an oil painting palette that I used to use for oil painting. And because the method for, it has like plastic on here, this is a professional palette. Well, you know, I don't expect you to get a professional palette, but it's made out of glass. And I think I just put white paper on the back and taped it around or something. I taped the white paper on there or taped white tape. It's just glass. And the reason why people do this is you can use a razor blade to clean it. This is oil paint that's been on here for about 10 years. So you can see, yeah. Anyway, that's what a professional palette would look like for oil painting. Or I have a new one actually that I just made for my daughter, who's 4. She hasn't used it yet, and has a little paint left on it. You can see you can just scrape it, and that cleans it off. So it's a very convenient way to mix paint, but it's not really easy to transport. So because it can break easily, so it's kind of something you would just like probably use at home. But you know, it lasts forever unless you break it. This one I got on Amazon, and I just taped some cardboard to the back. It already had a white backing, but I didn't want it to be too fragile because I didn't want it to break. So we're just going to be mixing on this little lid of a something or other. And these is just on some lids. So to mix, you use a palette knife. Now, why do you use a palette knife? Well, when you mix colors with a brush, number one, I wouldn't just dip back in, but then your brush gets dirty. Notice I have to like kind of wash out my brush, and it really works the paint into the bristles. So that's not really very convenient because I have to clean it every time. To clean, I just, you can't see, I bang down on the thing. Don't ever store your brushes really for too long in the water downward because it can warp your bristles. Even though I'm sure I'm guilty of doing that. Okay, so there's different types of palette knives. Plastic one, here's a metal kind. Here's a really old metal one that I've had, and you can see how encrusted with oil paint it is. I like the kind of like slightly smaller one rather than this one. But you know, all these would work. So you want to scoop up your paint, put it on here, and we're just gonna, quite honestly, we don't have to do that for red. Let's just paint in our red. Where's red? Oh, it's upside down. Red's over here. You can just paint in red. And this is cheap paint. And cheap paint will be pretty transparent, even though certain colors are more transparent than others. It also, you'll see when you mix cheap paint, it won't be very strong in terms of the colors it produces. Particularly weak will be the purple. Purple will probably be not looking like purple, it would probably look like brown with cheap paint. You might want to get a little wet if mine's very dry for some reason. So if you get a little water in there, you can ideally move the paint more into the lines. More water, of course, makes your paint thinner, so it's kind of good because it can run more easily, and it's not as doesn't look as broken, like it's smoother. But it's not like a dry brush technique here. But you can see there's my red, and yeah, it's not very solid. If you wanted this to look beautiful and solid, you could do multiple layers of it, but I don't know if that's really required. I don't need it to be absolutely perfect. Okay, so there's my red. So next I'm gonna make, let's say I make orange. So I wanna mix my red with my yellow. Now I'd use my palette knife to scoop some over. I'm not gonna need very much paint for this little guy, I don't think, because it's just a little tiny area. So I can just scrape this off. That's what's kind of cool about the palette knife on the edge here. And then wipe it on my cloth in between colors, and it's clean. And then I can dip back into the other color. Try to get equal amounts. And then wipe. So you use your rag to wipe it clean, and it doesn't waste as much paint. Also, you should wipe clean between every scoop so that you don't contaminate your colors. That's the best way to save your paint, because paint costs money. All right, so to mix, scoop, slap down, scoop, slap down, scoop, scoop, slap down. Use a scooping and slapping motion. And that will get you your color. Now, I can look at this and I could say, does that really look orange? So if you had a color wheel with you, a real color wheel sample, you could look at it and see. But that doesn't look orange enough to me. So I'm gonna grab a little more of the yellow. Put it down here. And scrape the edges there a bit, wipe clean, and use it to scoop. Scoop, scoop, scoop. Much better. Let's try it. Okay. Brush this in with a bigger brush. See, it's kind of like looking thin and watered down already. And like I said, this is not high quality paint, which is very apparent. But you could do multiple layers if you wanted. You of course have to let it dry a little bit between layers, which means it would dry on here too, which is not convenient. So I'm just going to try to add a little more. All right, that's pretty good. Good enough for me. All right, scrape up my brush a little bit on it. Dab. Anyways, I left these brushes in here. I'm going to try to wipe them off. Okay, so now I'm going to make red orange. So red orange should be a mixture of red and orange. Now here's orange, so I just got to find some red. Got some red right here. Take some red. This red's pretty strong, so I'm not going to add much of it. Hopefully that's not too much. Wipe it. Scoop up. Slap down. If you feel like it's too close to red, add a hint more of the yellow. Use your best judgment. You could always try a little bit. You could do a little test. What do you guys think? Is that too close to the red? Maybe a little bit. All right, so let's grab a little bit of yellow, maybe just a little bit, don't be quite that much, and we're going to mix. Okay, so now I'm going to apply that. Wiped my brush. You can see it's probably about halfway between the colors, which is pretty good. these two colors. Turned out pretty well. Okay, so you want to do all the colors like that. I've only done a couple of them for you. But the next one I would do, I would move on to the next primary color, which would be yellow. I have a new brush over here for my yellow. All right, and I'm not going to do this whole wheel for you because it could take a while, and you should make your own color wheel. But you would then mix this yellow with the orange here to make yellow orange. And then you would put down your green. Now what is green made of? Green is a mixture of yellow and blue. So you'd mix your yellow and blue to make green. And then you would use your yellow and green to make yellow green. And then blue to make purple, you'd mix your blue and your red to make purple. And then to make blue purple, your blue and your purple. So that's how you would do this color wheel. Thank you.